Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carl Prusa MMA. I'm Carl Prusa. Today, I am with top featherweight Canadian mixed martial arts prospect. He's coming off of a big BFL win, picking up a big rear naked choke. He is Snake Eyes, Mr. Radley SIlva. Radley, what's going on, brother? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Just finished enjoying some Sunday dinner with the family. It's good to get on and talk some MMA.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, absolutely. So if anyone's following the regional scene, especially in Canada, you're one of those big names that are emerging. And for good reason, man. You go out there, you're doing great things for BFL. You're putting on amazing performances. You can do so many things in this world. You decide to go down this road of combat sports. Why did you think this is the best career path for you?
I honestly didn't. I didn't think I would be doing a career in MMA. I just always thought I would fight in it, just because of like my family background and stuff. Like a bunch of the males in my family all fought mixed martial arts. Oh yeah, let me know if it's laggy or anything like on the connection and it's good.
Yeah, we're good.
Good. Okay. Sorry, I was getting some freezing there. But yeah, so I always knew I would fight mixed martial arts in the cage and stuff, just to represent capoeira itself, because all the males in my family did that. So I always knew I would do it. I just never thought it'd be a career path. So it's good to see that it's even an option to be able to make a living off MMA nowadays. And yeah, the sport's growing fast, and I'm just lucky and kind of hoping to take part of that history and that growth.
One thing that's really interesting when you look at your record is your first pro MMA contest 2013. Then you took a very lengthy absence until about 2020 to return. What was the reason behind that?
It was just life, man. I mean, when I took that fight in 2013, I was like 18 or something like that. But I wasn't really training or anything. I just had trained my whole life before that. But right before, like a year and a half or so, I was out of the gym because I actually got like removed from my family home because of like I don't know, child services or whatever. So when I was 16, I got taken out of my family home. I was raised by a single father, and then so they separated us and had me and my brother living in it's like a self care thing where we lived by ourselves basically, and the government would like pay our rent, and we were forced to like go to school, take care of ourselves, and you know. Imagine being 16 and having like a super sheltered life, and all of a sudden you're living by yourself, having to make all the decisions on your own. So you can imagine that you're not going to make the best decisions, and that basically that's what happened to me for like 2 years straight until I was like 18, and then I moved into like a fighter house with Caleb Starnes. He's like a former UFC fighter, and then I trained for like a month or so, and then I took that fight on like a couple weeks notice, went to some dude's hometown, and uh fought some like 30 something year old dude who was like 3-0 at the time in his hometown. I didn't train for it really at all. I just went there, like did the best I could, dominated, and then at the end of the fight I gassed out and just lost. So and then after that I kind of just like took a big break. Oh, after that, I actually had another fight like the next month after, just to like even out that record. So then I won that, and then I just took a big break from MMA, because I had to get my life in order. Like I said, I was coming from that government housing thing where it's like taking care of myself. So I had to yeah, figure out my life and what I was going to do with it. And MMA is one of those sports where you actually do need a lot of support, or you need to be able to support yourself. It's very hard to just do it on your own with no backing of any kind, right? So yeah, I had to like get my feet under me, and it took a long time, man. Vancouver is like one of the most expensive places in the world to live in. So imagine being like a young kid having to figure your life out, with and didn't graduate high school, didn't do anything like that. So I had to really figure my life out before I was able to like dedicate myself to MMA.
When you think of Canada, especially the sports scene, obviously hockey's huge. Vancouver, everyone likes the Canucks. But one thing I've really been noticing is mixed martial arts is really starting to turn that shoulder. 2011, George St. Pierre fought Jake Shields, big fight in Toronto, and I really think since then it started really growing in Canada. What you've obviously now been in the sport for a very long time. How have you seen the Canadian regional, Canadian MMA scene in general grow over the years?
Yeah, so back in the day, like when I was watching my dad fight and my cousin's fight, it was like on these like gymnasium shows where it wasn't even sanctioned professional fights. They were just fighting. and it actually didn't get sanctioned here in Vancouver till I think 2013. And funny enough, I was actually part of the very first professional event they had in Vancouver in 2013. It was Battlefield, and I fought on that card with my dad. And I'm pretty sure because I remember a news article about it. I think I was actually the very first pro MMA fight to be professionally sanctioned in Vancouver back in 2013 because I was the opener of the card. So technically, I was like the first pro fight to ever be sanctioned in the province. It's crazy to think about. Yeah, I remember I we made the news like it was like on the Sun, like Vancouver Sun or something like that, where it's like father and son fight on the first sanctioned. It's crazy, man. It's come such a long way since then, and it's like now we're on UFC Fight Pass, and so are a bunch of other promotions nationally in Canada, and I feel like UFC is really pushing to get that next wave of talent to come from Canada by having like most of the big shows here in Canada are all on UFC Fight Pass. So they're definitely trying to push to get the talent pool going here in Canada because it's one of the big markets for them, right? Like Canada, Australia, like they're very like every time they come here they sell out quick. So they're definitely pushing for that, and yeah, it's amazing to see the growth since then. A long way from watching those like BCIT gymnasium fights to now on UFC Fight Pass, and I'm lucky I got to see all the stages of that. I got to watch those fights. I got to be part of the first sanctioned fight here in Vancouver, and now I'm taking part of all the UFC Fight Pass ones here in Vancouver. So it's just pretty awesome, man.
Now, what's it like to be able to, do your fighting career and also be beside your father, a guy who's had a career in it? What's it like to be able to have a dad who understands what you're going through?
It's great. I'm older now, but yeah, it's awesome to have just not even my dad, my cousins, my family, everybody, right? We're all martial artists, so it's very like it's almost like a walk in the park feel. Like, what I mean, no one's really nervous. Everyone knows what's going on. We've all been through it together, so it definitely makes everything so much easier. It feels like a family event, when I go to fight. So, and yeah, having a dad who's done it, like it definitely helped me in the start for sure because it was one of those things where it felt like very natural for me to continue on doing because my dad was in fight camps, I would just train alongside him and stuff like that. Go to the wrestling gyms, go to jujitsu or wherever he went. I would just go. So it just yeah, it's kind of led into me being a good mixed martial artist at the end of the day.
The past 6 months have been very big for you. You're really becoming one of these top featherweight guys in the whole MMA landscape. And when you're going out there and you're decimating your opponents, for example, here, Drake Randall for second round, spinning wheel kick, absolute viral clip. If you're an MMA fan, you've probably seen it. Walk me through that finish.
That one specifically, I feel like that one was kind of just like I was gonna get a finish on the feet, whether it be that or not. But the style matchup really called for that kind of finish because I'm been in the game for so long. I'm very like I don't play around about it. It's not a game for me. Like I go in there to win, and I'll do whatever it takes to win. So that style matchup called for me to keep it on the feet because we're both good grapplers. Drake was like a lifelong wrestler or whatever, and I've been grappling like my whole life. So we're both good grapplers, and I take it to where the person's the weakest, right? So that's just the safest and smartest way to go about it. You want to see who's better at a part where you're both good at. You want to take it to where they're weaker. So I knew that a finish was going to come on the feed, and everyone was like, asking me when is that highlight reel knockout coming? Because my family is like kind of known for that stuff, like with the capoeira and the flashy style, right? So everyone was just wondering when does it come, and I was just telling people like when the style calls for it. And I felt like that style perfectly calls for it. He's a wrestler, so I decided I wanted to keep the fight on the feet, and it was going to happen one way or another. But as far as the actual finishing sequence, it came from a lot of like it literally started from the very first thing I threw in the fight, ended up, and then all the way to the finishing sequence. I started the fight out with a hook kick to the right eye, and then it landed well, and then another punch to the right eye, and the whole time he was like blinking out of this eye. So that ended up being the same side that I threw the kick from. And then throughout the fight, I was throwing a lot of spinning back kicks to the body. So it was kind of conditioning his hands to when I spin, he thinks I'm going to go down. So it's just, a factor of that. His right eye being damaged the conditioning to the body, and it kind of just like, added up, and it led to that like perfect moment where it's like, vision's impaired a little. He's already conditioned, and it goes right to the right spot. So that's that kind of stuff. I don't train for, like, I don't throw that kind of stuff in the gym to my training partners, but I've been throwing those kicks since I was a baby, so it just comes natural to me.
What was it like being on social media after that one? I mean, was your phone just stay blowing up for like a week?
Yeah, it was mostly a lot of MMA people just, yeah, messaging me. Had a lot of agents reach out, which is like awesome. Like, that really showed that it was getting a lot of attention. And yeah, just, yeah, a lot of people messaging me, like saying like, that was awesome, inspiring stuff, like whatever the case is, right? Up and coming talent. Like, everyone was really hyped about that. And yeah, it's not like it added any pressure to me, because I had all the pressure in the world to myself for every fight, but it definitely brought more eyes to my next fight. And yeah, I was just happy I was able to kind of capitalize on it by getting another like good finish against a tough opponent, and getting another regional belt, defending my regional belt. So yeah, I feel like I was able to capitalize on that moment, get another even more viral moment, I guess, which I'm still surprised at till this day. I don't even know how that works, but yeah, I was able to capitalize on the fact that that knockout brought more eyes to my next fight, and it's turned out great so far.
No, you're alluding to the rear naked choke finish in your last one. Another title defense for you. One thing that really stands out for you, man, you're such a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Obviously, you can go out there, get one of the nastiest knockouts of all year. Next fight, man, you go to the ground and you pick up a nasty rear naked choke. At what point in your career did you really start thinking, if I wanted to take this serious, if I want to make a run to the UFC and be one of the best in the world, that I need to be as well-rounded as possible?
Well, as far as making a run for it and taking it that seriously, I honestly didn't think about it. Well, I was kind of like in the back of my mind, but I didn't really set my foot down and say I'm going for this until, I'd say, not last year, but the year before that. So maybe for like the last 3 years, I'd say, was when I really decided, like, man, I want to give this a chance, because you can only do these athletic endeavors in a for a certain window of your life, right? Like, I can do whatever I want after that. I can, focus on business, focus on finance and all that stuff, when I'm a little older, and I can't do that. I can't have that athletic career later on, right? So I really wanted to make a point and really go for it. And like 2023 was when I was like, it's now or never. So yeah, I focused full time on training, and I basically was in a training camp for like 7 months straight, and I couldn't get a fight in 2023. And then I was literally gonna be like, well, it's been a good run. I tried, and I was literally like gonna retire from fighting, because I couldn't get a fight for like 7 months straight, and I was like in a training camp the entire time. And mind you, I had already taken so much time off, right? So I was thinking, man, this is it. I think I'm gonna call it a career. I tried at least. And then right at the end of 2023, the Battlefield promoter called me and said, hey, we might have a fight for you. And then I said, all right, we'll give it one last go. And then I took that fight, and it's basically been that for the last year and a half, 2 years. It's been just, I've been lucky, which is another thing was really smart for him to do, is to get me to fight for a title right away. He After my first fight back, he wanted me to fight for the title. I said, I don't know if I should. I'm not ready. But he's like, man, this is probably the only way you're going to be able to consistently get fights, is if you're holding a championship belt, right? So it's now or never. And I told him, I'm like, you know what, you're right. I know I can win the fight. I just was so set on having to like have a spectacular performance. That's why I kind of hesitated on taking it, because I knew I could win. I just wanted to make sure I had a really good performance, and don't know if I could do that after so much time off. I was able to do that, and yeah, man, I'm just lucky that I didn't look back. I took that fight and I just kept going. So to answer your question, yeah, it's been like a good like 2 years, 2.5 years that I've been made the decision that I'm gonna go for a run at this career. But as far as being a well-rounded fighter, that kind of just started when I was a kid. I started with capoeira, started doing jiu-jitsu because my family all did it. It's like the stereotypical Brazilian archetype for fighter, capoeira and jiu-jitsu. And then I kind of broke that mold when I stopped doing capoeira and jujitsu, and I focused only on wrestling when I was 14, and I did that for like 2 years. So I just stopped everything, all the sports, and did just wrestling for 2 years. And then when I was done with that, when I was 16, I started just doing Muay Thai. And then when I was 16 is when I also took my first amateur fight.
So many people watch mixed martial arts in this day and age. The sport is so mainstream, it's so blown up. And, I feel like the casual fans, they look at the John Joneses, the Habibs, the Alex Pereiras, and they're like, what a great life. It must be the best thing ever to be a fighter. Little they know, man, battling it out on the regional scene, man, you're losing money. You're not going there to make money. A lot of guys have the 9 to 5 jobs. You throw a wife
Yeah.
in there, you throw kids in there. You have to pay to train. You have to wake up early. You have to stay up late. You have to do this almost 7 days a week just for a chance to chase this dream. You've been doing this for a very long time. You've experienced the highs, you've experienced the lows of mixed martial arts. Why have you stuck strong through it and just kept on kicking and punching forward?
Um, I almost didn't, man. Like I said, I was literally ready to hang it up. What really kind of kept me in there was actually my wife. She's like, I told her, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I can't get a fight. It's been so many years I've been off of fighting. Like, what's the point? Like, if I train and waste all this time training, getting better, and I can't even get in there. So I told her I kind of just want to just move on and figure something else out. And I was even like looking at applications for the army and stuff. I just wanted to completely like change everything. I just wanted like a new life, basically. And she basically told me like, no, like you can't do, you can't do it. And it's funny because after that talk, like a few weeks later, is when I got offered that fight. And a big reason why I was making that big change too is because I was having a daughter like being born, like she was coming in like a month or two, and I was like, man, I can't get a fight still, and like, you know what I mean? So you're right. It's really hard. It costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time. And I was lucky to have the support of like my wife and my family all around me, telling me like you've trained your whole life for this. Like you can make it really far if you just get a string of fights going together. And like I had lots of teammates as well who made it to the UFC who see my talent and have always told me like you could be a top fighter in the UFC, like a ranked fighter, no problem. And it's good to hear that and all that, but if nothing's getting done, like you kind of just lose hope. So I was really lucky to freaking finally get a fight going and then get a string of wins going and to like prove to myself that I think I can make it to the top. And it's frustrating because I feel like I should have been there a long time ago, but at the same time, you just got to be grateful and you realize that everyone's time comes at a different time, right? You can't live someone else's life or live in their shoes, and I think that's what gets a lot of people even depressed and stuff is looking on Instagram, seeing people live their life and to maybe be at places where you want to be and trying to compare yourself, and that could compress someone into like their own feelings and emotions. So just being able to mature and grow as well has helped me a lot because I feel like now I'm ready to reach higher places, whereas before, like I said, a kid living by himself and making tough decisions. Imagine I would have had stardom in the UFC, like I could have done a lot of damage to myself or my future family or whatever, right? So I feel like everyone has their time, and I feel like now is like really my time, and every day I'm living my dream of being a professional athlete and trying to take one step at a time to get to where I want to be.
For you, what's the ultimate goal? What do you want to accomplish with your mixed martial arts career?
Man, I want to have the best career that Capoeira MMA fighters ever had. If that means getting the belt, if that means being a top ranked 1, 2, 3 fighter, I just want to make sure that people, when people think of Canadian MMA, that they think of Radley de Silva and they think of Capoeira as a viable martial art to put their kid in. To start them off on a martial arts journey or just a journey in life of learning discipline, respect, um, physical attributes, all that. So if me leaving a legacy behind for my kids and future kids to see that this is a path that you could take or even just a path to start on to learn values and stuff like that, then I feel like I would have done my job. And I feel like I have done my job and to my family as well to for all that hard work that they put into me, you know what I mean? So it's just a lot of it'll be a lot of self-fulfillment for sure if I can get to the top of the sport and prove everyone that you don't have to get there when you're 20 or you know what I mean? Like sometimes personal growth is just as important as physical growth, and I feel like I did all the physical. growing and learning of skills when I was young, and I was fortunate now that I'm looking back on it to be able to develop mentally and mature as a man, and now to be able to be in the limelight and represent myself in the right way when I get the spotlight. Also important. So just showing people that as well. Like everyone has their own time.
So every summer, there's this TV show that occurs on Tuesday nights. You might have heard of it. It's called the Dana White Contender Series. A lot of times, you look at guys on there. They have the 8-1, 9-1 record, 6-1, 7-1 record. You're right there. Is that something maybe we're considering for this summer?
100%, man. Honestly, I tried to take a fight. Well, I said I just want to say at the beginning of the year, I said what my goal was for the year was I want to fight once or one or two times before they start signing for Contender Series, and then fight Contender Series and end the year off by having a fight as a full-fledged UFC fighter. That was what I set for myself, the goal. Last year I set myself the goal of like I want to be 6-1 and I want to be on the radar of the UFC, and I was able to do exactly just that. So starting the year off, I had my one fight. I'm trying to book the second one. I was supposed to fight April 10th for the Battlefield card. The event got moved, and I unfortunately have some flights booked right when the event got moved. So I thought it was all good, and then I got a call just recently that the event got moved. So unfortunately, I can't even fight on that day. But there might be another card coming up in Canada when the UFC comes to Montreal. So I'm looking at maybe that. But if not, I feel everything will work for the better. Like I said, like I have two of the most viral knockouts on or finishes on UFC Fight Pass in the last 12 months. I'm five-time champion regionally here for featherweight. I have the 7-1 record. Like I said, I have the style, I have the accolades, I have the record. We'll see if everything works out for the best. But I know the matchmakers know of me and they're thinking of me for contenders. So I was hoping to get another fight in, but it's really hard to match me up. I didn't even have an opponent ready. I just set myself up for dates and hopefully I can get an opponent. But if not, things will work out for the best. If I have to fight again for contender series, I'm more than happy to. I already said I'm willing to fight one or two more times. And they start signing for it in May, right? So I already did my one fight, and if I have to do another one, I have the time. So all I know is I'm gonna be on this season's contender series for sure. I'll make sure that happens, and yeah, we'll get it done, man. We'll get it done for Canada.
Well, you haven't found the UFC yet. One thing I do think is really cool is it true you've done motion capturing work for the UFC video game?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, I've been doing that for the last like 2.5, 3 years now. So I can't. It's been a long time. I can't even remember. But yeah, I've been doing that for a while, and it's cool to do all the characters and all the different fighters in the UFC, and just every time thinking to myself, I can't wait till I do my own character. Just knowing that I'm gonna get myself perfect when I when I do have to do myself. So
So what exactly is that? What exactly do you do? Do you like kind of like act like them? Do their stances, kind of do their styles so it gets replicated for the video game?
yeah, that's pretty much what mocap is. It's just like body acting, right? So I'm an actor and I'm like in the actors union. I do like stunts and stuff here in Vancouver. There's a big film scene, so I've been lucky enough to get my foot in the door for that. And I'm an actor. I'm a fighter. I'm a capoeirista. I'm really have really good body movement, so it just ended up being like the perfect fit for what they need, right? So really blessed with that, and yeah, thank God every day whenever I get to work in such a like awesome position, one that like you dream of as a kid, right? To be able to be like, hey, that's me in a video game. So every time I'm like super thankful and thank the team for having me on.
Did you get a motion cap the McGregor walk?
No, that wasn't me. That was not me. Maybe I didn't have the McGregor enough, but yeah, I've done lots of cool ones, but it's everyone's different, and it's awesome too because I feel like that kind of translate into fighting like for my teammates. Like I have like one of my teammates, Jamie Siraj, is fighting coming up in a few weeks, and getting to like act like the guys they're fighting, like being able to mimic it to a T. They always trip out like holy crap, you look exactly like, or like you'll act exactly like him. So it works out great for like my team and stuff whenever I need to like help them out get ready for fights too.
You mentioned Jamie Siraj, obviously getting ready for a big fight, taking on Diego Brandao, guy who's former tough winner, guy who had a big run in the UFC. Jamie, one of those type of guys, man, just like yourself, that we're going to see in the UFC probably in the very near future.
100%, man. Me and him grew up together in the MMA scene here in Vancouver. Like we're always bumping into each other since we were young teens. Even had like a in ring grappling match one time at like the old like MMA events. Like when before they would have like a MMA jiu-jitsu match in between. Like me and him as kids, like 14, 15, like grapple each other in the ring too. We were probably scheduled to fight each other a couple times. It just never happened, and it's for the better. Like now we're like, some of our best friends and teammates. Like, so yeah, I'm gonna be out there in Vegas helping corner him for that fight too. So
Now, one thing I want to get your take on, there's so many fans now in this day and age. It's crazy. The sport at one time was referred to as human cockfighting. It wasn't legal everywhere. Now it's everywhere. You have all these different promotions. And now you have what are called the casual fan. These are my favorite type of people. They're usually drunk. They're drunk at Buffalo Wild Wings. They're in the cheap seats. They like to yell, twist them in the you know what. You're a crotch humper. You're a crotch sniffer. All this. They say some crazy stuff. What is your overall take on the casual fans?
honestly, I love it, dude. It's like, bro, imagine there was only hardcore fans. How boring would that be? Right? Like these guys bring so much energy to it whenever there's a big fight. So it just makes the bigger, and then when there isn't a big fight, you'll have the casual betting fans who literally just watch it for betting too, right? So it's so much more energy now into like every little fight, every event. And if it wasn't for the casual fans or like these betting fans, it'd be hard to get attention on all the events now with the UFC because their schedule is so ramped up, right? So if we didn't have the fan base to keep up with that, none of that would be going on. There'd be so much less fighters in the UFC. Literally half the opportunities would be taken away from fighters. So we owe it all to them, man. And as annoying and as funny as they are on Instagram sometimes, you got to take the good with the bad, right? We take the good as being able to get more UFC shows, more fighters in the UFC, and all that, more money, and then take the bad with them calling you a complete nobody loser whenever you lose. So you can't just have the good, right?
I think another byproduct of the casual fans is this very much entertainment and showbiz era of combat sports we find ourselves in. Now we are seeing guys legitimately act like characters. They're going whole WWE style. They're putting on a facade because they know it's going to get them a title shot. They know they're going to get paid. They're going to get good fights. They're going to get put well on the card. How do you think entertainment and personality has affected mixed martial arts?
Um, it's definitely affected it in a good way at first. And then there was this point of like almost saturation where it felt like everybody was trying to do it, but you can't really knock someone for trying to bring more eyes to their career and get themselves paid more and all that stuff. But I think it's awesome, and when it's authentic, and when you're already at the top of a sport and you're trying to do that extra thing to bring the extra eyes in, that's also another thing. But when you're at the bottom of the barrel and you're just trying to act like some crazy like dude just to bring the character out, it does seem a little cringe and all that stuff. But like I said, if you're already an amazing fighter, you're at the top of your sport, you're doing all you can, but you just can't get that little extra bit of like attention, who cares? Go for it. It's not that bad, right? If we would bring out extra personality to the events. And I know fans get way more hyped and willing to buy the pay-per-views if there's some story behind the fights, right? So I definitely can't knock it. Obviously, I'm sure we all can spot when it's fake and all that stuff, and I don't think that helps anybody who's doing that. But the people who are authentically have an awesome personality and they're awesome fighters, like it just the two and two together is just like a rocket ship for a career. So if you happen to have those, then you'll be doing really well.
Absolutely. All right, Radley, last question for you, my friend. We just got into 2025, man. We still got another 10 months left of this year. In a perfect world, how does 25 play out for you?
Like I said, man, maybe one more fight before Contender Series. Another finish. If not, I'm ready. I'm ready now. I'm ready to go. I'm training with the best in the world. I've been doing that for the last decade at least. So I'm ready to go. And if they get me on Contender Series for this summer, I'm gonna seize that opportunity. And I'm gonna end the year off with one fight as a full-fledged UFC fighter, nonetheless. So whatever it takes, we'll get there. And
Awesome.
let's put West Coast Canada back on the map, man, for MMA. The East Coast guys have been doing pretty well. Watch them over there, but we got to get some West Coast boys in there, man. Rory McDonald was like the real last big name from the West Coast. we've had other guys. We've had like, Jeremy Kennedy do well. He's from the West Coast. Um, Bibiano Fernandez, he was a legend. Like, these are guys that are that generation behind. Let's get the new generation of West Coast MMA in there, and let's represent.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Radley, man, thank you so much. Kind of a little back and forth to get this set up, but I'm so happy we were able to do it, man. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to, interviewing you again and again, man. I think you have a very bright future, and hope to see you fight again soon, my friend.
I appreciate it, Carlo. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Absolutely. That's it for us tonight. I'm Carlo Prusa. That is Radley SIlva. Stick around, fight fans.